In 1963, the red tide of presidential assassination that had ebbed for 30 long years came flooding back.
Everybody who was alive at that time will be able to remember, where were you when you found out that Kennedy was shot?
It was the first assassination in American history that virtually the whole nation was an eyewitness to. If they didn't see it live, they saw it played and replayed.
John Fitzgerald Kennedy, elected at 43, was an articulate, personable, intelligent, and ambitious young president. Kennedy was born in 1917 to great wealth. His father was a banker and stock investor who had made millions in banking stock, shipbuilding, and real estate, as well as in motion pictures. Backed by his father's fortune, John Kennedy entered politics, becoming a congressman from Massachusetts, then senator, and finally, the first Irish-American Catholic president of the United States. His administration was noted for its support of civil rights legislation and a mixed bag of foreign policy failures and successes.
In the first year or two of his presidency, he hadn't accomplished a heck of a lot, except to, and this is very important, to create an aura of change and elegance and youth and dynamism. Coming after the 8 years of Eisenhower's presidency, when things seemed pretty dull, Kennedy had certainly invigorated the office and the government.
The people of America and the world seemed to love him. He was the consummate politician. The upcoming presidential campaign of '64 brought Kennedy to Dallas, the heart of a state heavy with disapproving right-wingers. It was November 22nd, 1963.
John F. Kennedy was greeted at the airport in a Lincoln Continental convertible. The sun was shining. It was a beautiful day. He was an attractive president. His wife was accompanying him on this trip. And there was a motorcade through downtown Dallas. It was a joyous event. Kennedy's spirits were buoyed.
Since the day was sunny and bright, the bubble top of the limousine was removed. He had insisted that no Secret Service men ride on the back bumper or side running boards, and that motorcycle police not flank his car, but stay to the front and back.
Death threats flowed in before he left for Texas, and he was advised by his advisors not to go. But John F. Kennedy believed that he had a charmed life.
With Kennedy was Governor Connally and his wife. At 12:21 p.m., as the presidential limousine inched down Elm at 11 miles per hour, Nellie Connally turned to the president and said, "You surely can't say Dallas doesn't love you." "No, you can't," answered the smiling, waving president. He had just seconds to enjoy the adulation. In a split second that would change America forever, in front of the Texas School Book Depository, there was a loud crack.
The first shot hit John F. Kennedy in the back of the neck. It went through his windpipe, hit Governor Connally, broke 2 ribs, went through his wrist, broke his wrist, and ended up in his left thigh. The second bullet was a fatal bullet. It hit John Kennedy in the back of the head and tore part of his brain away. And Jackie Kennedy, at this point, screamed, "My God, they've killed him."
Parkland Hospital, there has been a shooting. Parkland Hospital has been advised to stand by for a severe gunshot wound. I repeat, a shooting in the motorcade in the downtown area. Parkland Hospital, there has been a shooting. Parkland Hospital has been advised.
Finally, the limousine lurched forward past horrified, sobbing spectators and sped away to Dallas's Parkland Memorial Hospital. Despite desperate efforts, John F. Kennedy was pronounced dead at 1:15 p.m. The The Dallas Morning News had outlined Kennedy's visit, giving the exact details of the route his motorcade would take through Dallas. And at one point, the motorcade would be directly below the depository.
There was a young man on the 6th floor of a building on that parade route who was intent on taking the president's life.
He had a rifle wrapped in brown paper with him. He took it up to the 6th floor of the book depository, where there was a lot of construction. And he unwrapped the rifle, reassembled it, and set a telescopic sight on it.
As the president's motorcade passed below, he had fired. His incredibly accurate shots at a moving target twice hit the President of the United States.
At 1:15 p.m., a police officer saw a man acting suspiciously and who looked very much like the description of a man who had been seen leaving the school book depository, walking along the sidewalk. He tried to stop him. The man shot him and killed him and ran into a movie house.
Cornered by the police, the man tried to fire at them, but was captured in a furious struggle after his gun misfired. The man was 24-year-old Lee Harvey Oswald.
Did you kill the president?
No, I've not been charged with that. In fact, nobody has said that to me yet. The first thing I heard about it was when the newspaper reporters in the hall asked me that question. I've been charged with both killing Officer Tippin and John F. Kennedy.
Are you and the rest of the police convinced you are the right man now?
I think we do. I figure we have sufficient evidence to convict you. These people have given me a hearing without legal representation or anything. I didn't shoot anybody.
Lee Harvey Oswald was a young man, early 20s, who came from a very troubled background. Oswald's father had died. He was raised by a very possessive mother. They lived kind of a transient life. Oswald had never really been able to make many connections with friends as he was growing up. His disconnectedness became political. He began to become interested in political causes.
Lee Harvey Oswald was a hostile loner. He was a Marine radar technician. He defected to Moscow.
While in the Soviet Union, he met and married 19-year-old Marina Nikolaevna Prusakova.
Then, as had been the pattern, became disillusioned with life in the Soviet Union, whereupon he returned to the United States and began an existence that one could characterize really on the margins of society, moving from one marginal job to another.
Oswald tried to return to Russia, but was refused. He tried to emigrate to Cuba, but was again refused.
When his efforts to emigrate to Cuba were blocked by the Cuban government, I believe that Oswald decided at that point that he was going to do something extreme. In killing President Kennedy, who we know he had some, for whom he had some admiration, he would demonstrate to the Cubans that he, Lee Harvey Oswald, could rid the world of a president who had been the arch enemy of Cuba, and in particular Fidel Castro, and finally, and perhaps most importantly, he could get back at his wife, who was leaving him, who had refused his attempts to reconcile.
As Oswald was being transferred from police court to a county jail, Jack Ruby, the owner of a sleazy nightclub, stepped out of the shadows and shot him.
Now the prisoner is being moved out toward an armored car. There is the prisoner. Do you have anything to say in your defense? Oswald has been shot. There's a mass confusion there. Rolling and fighting. Thrown to the ground. The police have the entire area blocked.
During the prior 2 days, Ruby had careened around Dallas, raging over Kennedy's death. He wept openly with complete strangers. It's hard to realize that a complete nothing, a zero like that, could kill a man like President Kennedy, he said. Oswald was rushed to the Parkland Memorial Hospital. The same physician that worked on JFK tried to save him. Again, the doctor was unsuccessful. Oswald was dead. Ruby was found guilty and sentenced to die in the electric chair, but died of an almost unprecedentedly rapid development of cancer before the sentence could be carried out.
A part of everyone's heart was destroyed that day in November in 1963. And the world was a crueler and colder place for those who lived through it. The idealism that Kennedy kindled in youth would never return again.
One can spin out theories all day long. Unfortunately, theories require facts to go along with them, and nobody has managed to find conclusive evidence for any of these conspiracy theories.
The assassin Jack Ruby had called a zero changed the world of the American presidency. John Kennedy was the last of the icons of national respect that had led through Lincoln, the Roosevelts, and Eisenhower. America's youthful hope for its presidents died with JFK, replaced with a wary cynicism toward a position that had become a target for not just insult, but bullets. Meanwhile, his father was a banker and stock investor who had made millions in banking stock, shipbuilding, and real estate, as well as in motion pictures. Backed by his father's fortune, John Kennedy entered politics, becoming a congressman from Massachusetts, then senator, and finally, the first Irish-American years came flooding back.
Everybody who was alive at that time will be able to remember, where were you when you found out that Kennedy was shot?
It was the first assassination in American history that virtually the whole nation was an eyewitness to.
In 1963, the red tide of presidential assassination that had ebbed for 30 long Catholic presidents of the United States. His administration was noted for its support of civil rights legislation and a mixed bag of foreign policy failures and successes.
In the first year or two of his presidency, he hadn't accomplished a heck of a lot.
If they didn't see it live, they saw it played and replayed.
John Fitzgerald Kennedy, elected at 43, was an articulate, personable, intelligent, and ambitious young president. Kennedy was born in 1917 to great wealth